We get this buyer. He's from Southern Oregon. He wants to use his title company. So I'm like, no, don't. Let's not do this. I've done a million of these. If you get a title company that hasn't seen it before, they're not going to know how to close this. But, I get on the phone with him. He talks a big game. He blah, blah, blah. I own all these doors. We do these all the time. We need to use my crew, my whatever. So I stupidly agree to use his title company. So what is up, guys? This is Matt Cox back with another episode of the Saucetown Investor. If you read the title to this episode, I recorded this while I was pissed off. It's a little bit for attention, but I am a little pissed off right now. But I'm going to tell you kind of a story about a transaction that is in progress or was in progress, and use it to kind of paint a larger picture about kind of learning how to control your emotions and deal with people in this business who are maybe not entirely ethical or maybe not entirely competent in some situations. Now, just so you're aware, I'm on this pod. Unless I'm talking positively about somebody. If I'm talking positive, I'll shout people out all the time. If it's something that's not in the greatest light or is negative, I'm not going to call people out. I don't find that to be productive at all, and it doesn't make me look good either. I don't know. There's maybe one or two guys out there I would call out at some point, but for the most part, I don't think it's productive to name people by name unless it's in a positive light. So I'm going to talk in generalities about the people in this transaction and tell you the story, because this is a situation where it's something I've been working on. Is you in this business, you need to stay even keeled. There's going to be times where you feel like you're wronged or you didn't get justice or you want to get justice. I would have gone through the roof a year or two ago when this happened. But trying to handle this in a positive way. So to kind of start from the beginning, this is a deal. We're working with a seller on a novation. You guys can look up what that means, but basically a novation is an agreement where they let us sell their property for them. Additionally, we're selling it subject to. What does that mean? What that means is we're selling it subject to the existing mortgage on the property. So there is a 4% mortgage on this property, which is, needless to say, is attractive for buyers, because if you go get a new mortgage from a bank, you're going to be at 7%. This one's at 4%. So it's an attractive deal. We've got some sellers that frankly needed our help, didn't really know, they just have other stuff going on. They're not experts in how to manage these situations. So that's the deal. Anyway, it's listed on market. This is a single family home in Roseburg, and we get a guy that goes and sees it. He submits an offer, blah, blah, blah. We kind of work through the terms of the offer, the usual stuff around price, inspections, timelines, etc. All that stuff, pretty easy to deal with. Because this is a complex transaction, we want to use our title company. Like I said, I'll always shout out people in a positive light. My title company, like many other investors, and with good reason, is WFG and Clackamas, which is title officer Tanya Pierce and her team up there. They do an excellent job, and that's why we like to use them. They're good. This isn't your, typical single-family home, first-time buyer transaction. It's innovation. It's sub 2. There's some moving parts here, so you need experts in the title company space, because not all title companies are created equal. So we get this buyer. He's from Southern Oregon. He wants to use his title company. So I'm like, no, don't. Let's not do this. I've done a million of these. If you get a title company that hasn't seen it before, they're not going to know how to close this. But, I get on the phone with him. He talks a big game. He blah, blah, blah. I own all these doors. We do these all the time. We need to use my crew, whatever. So I stupidly agree to use his title company. So fast forward, we go under contract a few weeks ago. I think we do a 2-week close because remember, we're doing this subject to, so there's no new loan here. So it doesn't, typically in an escrow, the thing that takes the longest time is the loan underwriting and the appraisal and things like that, all related to the loan. There's no new loan here, so we can close quickly. So from the jump, this guy just he kind of thinks the rules don't apply to him. So after, on a typical transaction on this one, you're supposed to deposit earnest money. Okay, in this case, it was only $1,000. And then there was a 5-day inspection period. So as soon as we hop in, he completely ignores the earnest money requirement. This is last week. I think we're on day 5. Earnest money is supposed to be deposited. After day 3, he hasn't deposited it. He also, remember, it's a 5-day inspection. He doesn't go do the inspection until I think day 7. So we've violated 2 parts of the contract immediately. And I get on a call with him, and I'm just like, hey man, I don't like playing fast and loose with contracts. That's just not how I do things, and I don't like what's happening right now. And he made a comment about, oh yeah, earnest money. It's just $1,000, and I go, dude, I don't care if it's $1,000 or $100,000. Like, this is what it says on the contract, and I don't like doing business any other way. And he makes some passing comment about, okay, whatever, $1,000 is I light $1,000 on fire. I'll deposit it right now. So he's violated the contract twice. No earnest money, skips the inspection requirements, just shows no regard for anybody else's time or the requirements of a legal contract. Hey guys, we're taking a quick break, but before we get back into it, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us to keep bringing you more valuable content. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, don't forget to leave a review. Please, it makes a huge difference. All right, let's get back to it. So, I mean, guys, when you see this, it's a sign of things to come. If somebody's going to be sketchy over $1,000, they're certainly going to be sketchy over 10, 100, or 1,000, or $1 million. It's just it's in their blood. So he finally does the inspection, and another point here is we just can't get a hold of this guy or his agent or his title company. They're all kind of, I get the feeling, in cahoots together. I mean, a title company is supposed to be a neutral third party. It doesn't really feel that way. Again, I'm not going to name this title company. It's not productive. I'm just not going to work with them again. So we get to, and I'm recording this on Friday morning, the 24th. We are supposed to be closing today. Today's our close date. And this is all too predictable. So last night, for whatever reason, the night before closing, title contacts us and says there's issues with the title that are going to cost both the seller and buyer additional money to solve. And I go, what are you talking about? So on the title report, there is a lien for about $400, something that we've seen 1,000 times, right? You close and the lien gets paid off at closing. They don't know how to do it. Additionally, there is a memorandum of sale that we, being my company, have recorded. The details aren't super important, but it's something you have to do when you're doing a novation agreement, which I mentioned earlier is an agreement in which the seller, the actual owners of this house, agree to let me or my company sell this property for them. So it's really simple stuff. If I was using the WFG team, it's clockwork. Like, this isn't an issue. So of course, as I told the buyer, the whole thing is going sideways because this title company hasn't seen this. This doesn't mean they're idiots. It doesn't mean no one should work with them. I'm sure they're great if you're doing a standard purchase, but you need you need the best of the best when you're doing kind of these more complex deals. So they're completely thrown for a loop. They don't know what's going on. They want all this random stuff signed that I know you don't need to do. It's just they're telling me we need to extend for a week, just everything, the whole kitchen sink. Everything went wrong exactly as my agent and I predicted by using this title company. So I respond to them and I say, hey, but before we address any of the title stuff, just a couple questions. The seller already violated the inspection period. He told me he was going to be depositing earnest money. Has he deposited his earnest money yet? And they say no. I've honestly at this point I've heard enough. And here's a lesson for you guys: when people are acting unethically or irrationally, or basically just aren't respecting your time or the rules or your deal, whatever it is. I mean, this guy had a complete lack of any conscience about what he was doing. He's tying up a property. There's all kinds of implications of this stuff. He can't even deposit $1,000 of earnest money. So do you think they're asking me to extend this contract another week? Now, a few years ago, I probably would have talked myself into it. Like, okay, well, you know what? We've got a buyer. We'll get him to come around. Guys, here's the lesson. These people don't come around. Okay. The quicker you can get out of business with them, the better. So they're asking for all this stuff. And I just emailed the thread with the seller and the agent and the title company and my agent as well. And I just say, please cancel the contract and go back on market on grounds of earnest money not being deposited. And, and kind of another lesson here, while I was doing this, I had about 5 different emails typed out. And they were different versions of just getting, and I was pissed, okay? And they're just different versions of me getting all this stuff out of my system, calling out the title company, telling the seller he's unethical, this is bullshit, I can't believe, just, and you take a look at this stuff and it's all in the moment. It's like, what does saying that actually accomplish? I mean, I've seen people, they'll go on social media and trash people and guys, at the end of the day, there's a couple things here. You don't want to burn bridges. You never know when you might be working with this group again. I can tell you clearly, I won't be working with them again. I will not be working with this buyer again, certainly. I don't know. He claims he's a big investor. I don't want to be a part of anything he's doing. But I'm not going to mention him, or I'm not going to. Guys, when you post stuff on social media or on your podcast or whatever and call people out by name, all that anyone sees, they just see your name and they see their name and they think, well, when you do deals with these people, there is chaos and there's lawsuits and there's just total anarchy. Nobody cares who's right or who's wrong. They just see confusion, and man, that doesn't sound like it's fun to do a deal with that guy. So point being, control what you can control. Okay. At the end of the day, what's important to me? I could get a bunch of stuff off my chest and it might make my ego feel better for a few minutes. And I can tell this buyer how I feel about him and this title company and how, all that. It's not productive. At the end of the day, what do I actually want? I want this property to get sold so that my company can make money, so we can be done with it, so that I can pay my acquisitions guy for it, and so we can do what we're here to actually do, which is buy and sell real estate. So long story short, I got all this stuff typed out. At the end of the day, I just said cancel the contract, okay? And I've, this quote unquote investor, I've removed him from my contacts. It's also another piece of context. There was another, because I initially kind of thought he was a player in this business. And I had another deal also kind of in Southern Oregon that I was having him take a look at. He completely ghosted me on it. I went as far as to schedule a walkthrough and everything for him. He completely no-showed it. So it's just a pattern of behavior. And I don't do well with this stuff, is people who don't do what they say they're going to do, or I perceive as not respecting my time, or my money or my deals or my staff getting paid or my agents that I work with, whatever it is. So there's all this stuff you can do, get it off your chest. I'm angry. What I ended up actually doing, I just said, please cancel the contract and go on market. And I removed this guy from my contacts. Um, I don't need to have a big blow up and tell everybody how I feel. And so there's a greater lesson here, guys. Like I said, a few years ago, I would have had to just tell everybody exactly how I felt and lose my mind on this. In this case, keep your eye on the ball. What do you actually want? Do you want your ego to feel good for a few minutes and tell everybody how it is? And by the way, I can say all this stuff to this title company and this seller or this buyer. It's not going to change their mind. They're going to justify their actions, and that's fine. So you get to choose who you work with. Okay, I'll say that again. You get to choose who you work with, and the way people act now is probably how they're going to act in the future. So, uh, people like this, just move on. Don't get it off your chest. Work with A players. These are not A players. They're not people you want to be in business with, but resist the urge to go and trash them anywhere. Just move on from the deal. And guess what, guys? We're back on market this morning. We have a showing already set up. We're moving onward and upward. So, and by the way, feel free to reach out if you would like to invest in the Roseburg area. We have a good deal for you with a 4% mortgage on it. So, hope you guys learned something from this one. Keep your cool. Control your emotions, because there are going to be people in this business. There's a ton of great people, but there are people who will piss you off. And if you lose your cool, it's not productive for you or for your business. Thanks, guys. That is a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Saucetown Investor. If you got value from this, drop us a comment and let us know your thoughts. Did you have a big takeaway? Is there a topic you want to see us cover next time? Is there a guest you want to see interviewed? DMs are open. Business is at Saucetown Properties, and my personal, you can DM me personally, is at The Real Matt Cox 4. We'd also like to ask you kindly to please like and subscribe. You can also follow along with the Saucetown Investor blog. That's mattcox444.substack.com. Thanks again, guys, and until next time, keep investing and stay saucy, Saucetown.